Hello and welcome back to Here's the Thing. We're here to review a much anticipated movie, something we've been looking forward to for like 4 years. The next film from Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another. One of the most anticipated movies of this year, one of the last kind of big, huge releases of this year in terms of film culture big drops. So we've been really looking forward to this. And I'm here with Ari. Let's start with you, Ari. How did you feel about this movie going in, and how are you feeling now?
I'm really in love with this film. I think he really nailed it. I It's really interesting because when you tell me PTA is doing straight up a blockbuster, like not 200 million, but like 80 million, this is a big film. I'm like, what does that look like? What do PTA action scenes look like? And the action scenes might be my favorite part of the movie. I It's fascinating to see those car chases. I was a big fan of the movie. I loved all of the performances. I really was a big fan of this movie.
Yeah, I had a blast with this thing, and like you said, I don't know what to think of PTA doing action scenes, PTA doing like high pace, really like thrilling scenes like that. It's not something he usually does, right? So it's out of his comfort zone. I think he really nailed it, but I think what's also interesting is how there's so much of that PTA DNA still in here. It still has those kind of buffoonish characters, really bizarre people who don't seem like they're real, but are going through the world anyway. And it's very funny to see Leonardo DiCaprio play like this totally bizarre hippie character, and Sean Penn play this super exaggerated military guy. But despite being crazy and exaggerated, they still feel like humans, and they still have like this actual empathetic person beneath them. So yeah, I love that little PTA humanity with that huge adrenaline style, like you said, blockbuster kind of energy. So I really love this thing. There's going to be a lot to debate about it. I'm sure a lot of controversial thoughts and opinions on it, but I had a really good time with this thing, and I can't wait to get into it more deeply with you.
I feel like that's one of the best parts of PTA as a filmmaker is he gives you these characters. They feel unreal, but they feel human,
Hmm.
and you connect with them at the end of the. I mean, not all of them. He has some that are like straight up like evil, like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Punch Drunk Love. But he also has ones that are genuinely just relatable, like Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah, and focuses on the humanity. Like, this is a movie about revolution. It's a movie about a far left revolutionary played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who, in the midst of a huge violent moment in the middle of this civil war that is brewing in the United States, he is going across the California wilderness to try and rescue his daughter. So it's sort of this ultimate chase movie happening within a huge revolution within the United States, very similar to Civil War, which came out a couple of years ago, but PTA's version of that, which is tone, his style.
I That was the first thing I thought of, and I think this is the Civil War that maybe people wanted. This is the movie that's actually making a statement. I would love to get your thoughts on that aspect of the film, the political aspect of the film.
Yeah, I really appreciated that this movie was not afraid to take a side. Movies like Civil War and a lot of movies that take on these issues feel like they have to walk in the middle all the time and never lean one way or the other, or they lean so far in one way that it becomes almost totally unrelatable, right? The people who are on this quote unquote good side become so completely and wholly good that it doesn't seem like a real person. And Leonardo DiCaprio's character is a perfect embodiment of like an actual, hardcore revolutionary leftist. He is kind of just an anti-government weirdo, and he does believe in the cause. He has, empathy for all of these causes, but in the end, he's also not a perfect guy at all. He has a lot of, confrontational elements. He uses like really foul language towards people, and he's not a perfect guy at all. So I really enjoyed the complexity of that. I mentioned he focuses on like the humanity of the revolution, and how like the interconnected network is not like leftists meeting in like this underground cavern or something like that. It's, people in smoke shops and karate dojos and that kind of thing. Real humans who are having interactive conversations. There's all these people who are like sitting on their phones scrolling social media while, the army is fighting behind them in the background, because it's just casual life to a lot of these people. It really felt fascinating in the way that it's political, but it's very personal. It's focused on these characters. It's not really about the politics. Really, it is in the visuals. They're not shying away from the modern imagery, but it is very much focused on this individual guy's individual journey, who is in the end just trying to save his daughter. He cares about the cause. He cares about the revolution that's occurring, but in the end, he's just a dad trying to save his daughter. And I really thought that was a great touch.
I really liked Tatiana Taylor. I thought she was really great. She's not in the entire movie, but she is in a decent amount. I really appreciated Leo's character because that's what I like about PTA, having these flawed characters. Like, yeah, he believes in the revolution, but then he literally calls her friend, who is probably queer, like a freak.
Hmm.
So, like, and that's what I really like about his movies. And I really like Benicio del Toro. I would have liked to know a little more about him. It felt like I didn't really know much about him, but I thought his performance was great. It's always great seeing Benicio del Toro, but Sean Penn for me is easily the standout here. He is incredible. What a weirdo. I mean, what a fascinating character. And when you talk about just this movie as painting conservatives as evil, and then you get to his character and you're like, what is going on in this guy's brain? Because, you think he's just evil, but then I don't know. What are your overall thoughts on Sean Penn's character?
Sean's Penn character absolutely is the standout for me in terms of the performances. He's doing the most, absolutely. So I think he stands out in that way. He's certainly, putting on the most performance in terms of his mouth and his eyes, and he looks, way different with the makeup and the way he totally changes his mannerisms. So I think you're definitely going to walk away noticing him because he's just doing so much. And yeah, you question what's going on in this guy's head, but I think by the end of the film, you do kind of grasp this guy's mental state. He's doing something that is irrefutably evil, and he's totally completely on the wrong side of history. But by the end of the film, you do kind of understand what drives this guy and the pathetic nature that brought him to the place that he is. And you wonder if he would have just been more open to other ideas or been open to who he is, if maybe he wouldn't have gone down this insane path, right? You think about how there's all these people who are, fighting against gay rights who themselves are super closeted. This is not at all about that, but I thought about that as I was watching it. People
Yeah.
who are so hateful of themselves that they project that hatred onto everyone else around them, and they have to project like, no, I'm perfect. Everybody else are the ones who are imperfect.
To me, I got the sense that he kind of just wanted to win, regardless of what he has to do. Like, there's things that happen where you're like, oh, wait, I thought you were 100% there, but I guess you only care about what happens to yourself and that you win.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We mentioned how Leo is about the cause, but in the end is really about his own, right? He's off to save his own daughter, not really trying to fight for the revolution, trying to fight for his daughter. And Sean Penn's in a similar state. Like he's trying to fight against someone just out of like bitter rivalry and hatred, not really even about saving the country or, purifying something or other. He's just, I hate this guy for some other reason and I want to go after him.
And I'm going to touch on the cinematography and the score real quick. This film was shot by Michael Bauman, who has been working. This is the second time he shot Licorice Pizza, which I thought was a gorgeous looking movie. I wasn't completely in love with the movie. I thought it was good, but that movie is gorgeous, and you buy that this is the 70s. I thought this film looked great. I think PTA should stick with this guy. The way they shoot the action scenes, and there's specifically a scene involving hills, and the way they shot that to perspective, I thought was really impressive. And when I was watching this, I was like, we talked about weapons and how Zach Krecker could do a Grand Theft Auto film. I'm sorry to bring this up again, but I genuinely think that if PTA were to direct a Grand Theft Auto movie, I could buy it. I could see him doing the Magnolia thing again, where he has all these different characters coming together. I doubt that'll happen, but I really like the way it was shot. I also love the score. Johnny Greenwood, I liked his score for Licorice Pizza, but I maybe didn't love it as much as something like Phantom Thread. But I think he's kind of back with this. They do it reminded me of Magnolia, where it just never stops. It just keeps going, and it keeps the film alive and keeps you into it. And yeah, but what did you think of the cinematography and the score?
Yeah, as far as the cinematography, I noticed that it revived VistaVision, this long dead format that the Brutalist brought back last year, and now this also brought back. And you can really tell it has this old school style, and it has this really uniquely wide look to a lot of the scenes. And it doesn't look like a movie of today. It's set today, but it doesn't look
Yeah.
like a movie of today. It's gorgeous. Yeah, you mentioned that hills sequence, which is beautiful, but there's this so much kinetic energy when a car hits another car. You almost feel like you're in an actual car accident. Like you jolt back and you're like ready to have a fight or flight response to this film. And it's really chaotic when there's these scenes in the streets and police are clashing with protesters, and it feels so real and so alive, and the color and is so vivid and so bright. It feels like the VistaVision really brought out the color of this film. And me and you recently watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which was shot similarly. I thought of that throughout this with the chase sequence. This feels like the ultimate chase movie all throughout California, which is essentially what that movie was doing. So I noticed a lot of similarities there. But yeah, when you see like this, the glowing lights of the police cars and the clashing of like this really gray and brown look of the desert, and then the kind of cold blacks of the city, it looks gorgeous. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie.
Um, and I was lucky enough to see it on 70 millimeter last night, and I could definitely tell with all the colors when the scene at nighttime. I mean, the sky looks very blue. I don't know if you saw it in Dolby. Did that stand out as much to you? But yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. I saw it in Dolby, and the nature shots are gorgeous. Like there's this shot of police cars going down a highway, and you see the sky, and you see the green of the grass, and it's not a super showy shot, but it's just like that stark nature of showing this everyday image clashed with violence. And I really thought it shone beautifully in theaters. I watched it in Dolby, and I went out of my way to see it in a Dolby screen that was just a touch little bit bigger than the ones around everywhere else. So I'm happy I did. It looked beautiful. And
yeah,
if you have the chance to see it in theaters, go out and see it, because it's not seemingly like it's going to do super well financially. So, but this is a movie, it's so engaging, and the score is so chaotic and so rhythmic, and it pulls you in from start to the end. You know, it's constantly engaging. It's constantly thrilling.
it might not have a big opening weekend, but in terms of PTA, it's going to have its biggest opening weekend. So if there's anything good to take away from this, it's that the most people will see a PTA movie in its release than has happened before.
Yeah, that's definitely good, and I hope the word of mouth of this makes it one of those films that lives on, you know, in the zeitgeist and in the conversation, especially if it goes on. I'm assuming it will go on to do pretty well at the
Yeah,
Oscars, but
and
I hope this has a legacy.
yeah, and before we close this out, I'd like to give a shout out to Chase Infinity, who plays the daughter. I thought she was really good. She maybe doesn't have as much to do as someone like Sean Penn, but she was doing a really good job. And I like that this is a woman who clearly had childhood that is not ideal, but she has grown up to be a very strong woman. She's doing, I mean, martial arts. She's training martial arts. But yeah, I thought she gave a really great performance too.
This was her debut as an actress, so I was really impressed by her. And as someone you have to root for, right? This is the daughter that Leo is after, so you have to care for this character. You have to care for the future. She represents not just what Leo roots for, but the next generation, right? The people that this revolution is about, the people that we're fighting for. And I think that's part of the core message of what this movie is that like we need to keep these battles going on. We need to keep this fight going on. We can't just let it end. We can't just give up when it gets hard. We need to pass on the torch to the next generation. And, you know, a revolution doesn't happen because one battle occurs or because one person gets elected or because one thing goes one way. It happens over decades, right? Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Bob, mentions he's been in this fight for 30 years. And even this movie takes over the course of like almost 20 years of time. So you get the sense that this is telling us that change does not occur overnight, right? And I think that's the core message of this movie is it's not about one person doing one thing at one time. It's about individual people all the time choosing to help the people around them. And I think that's the core theme of what this movie is about, right? And I think that's something that's so timely and so important to now as we're living through cultural change and violent revolutions around us, not in our country right now necessarily, but we're on the edge of that potentially happening as much as we don't want it to be. So I think this should serve as a forewarning of, you know, not giving up and caring for the people around you, and not, you know, disconnecting yourself, because the people that you connect to, the people that you live for, are the ones who are really going to be what you're fighting for when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and there's literally a line when the time skip happens that says nothing has changed.
Yeah, that
And
says 16 years have passed and nothing has changed, right? So that's a very interesting line to me, and the fact that this didn't just they fought one time and then the superhero beat the supervillain and then it was over, right? It's
yeah,
cultural change happens forever, right? It doesn't
and,
stop.
and as soon as you see that she's grown up, that she's a teenager, you're so angry because of what you just saw, because of what they established, that this is our world, and it just makes you so angry. And then see the things that happen. You see that she gets kidnapped, It's a very I would say it's the most infuriating movie that has been released all year.
Yeah, it's definitely trying to incite conversation and incite anger. And I know a lot of people on certain sides of the political debate are probably going to watch this and say, "Oh, this is promoting violence. No, this is very one-sided." But I think you got to focus less on, "Oh, is this telling me I'm right or telling me I'm wrong?" and look at this as a warning of where we can get and where we don't want to be. Right?
Yeah, we don't want to be a culture where people are just bombing people.
No, and if we keep along the path of least resistance and just keep in our bubbles and never talk to anybody else ever, that's where we end up.
Yeah, and I think that in the first like 30 minutes of the movie makes a point to say that like if you commit violence, nothing good is really going to come from that. Yeah, One Barrel After Another is definitely great, and I don't know if he's going to get a chance to make a movie on this level again, but if he did, I think it would be great. But it might be something where you just want to see it once.
Yeah, I'm really curious what this does in terms of the general audiences. It doesn't seem like it's something that people are ready to talk about, right? Between this and Eddington and other movies that are very directly engaging with the current moment and the current divide, people don't seem like they're ready to engage with that right now. And it's unfortunate, but I do think this is going to be one of those movies that lives on for a very, very long time. And I hope this becomes something that we go back to and look at and say, I can't believe we were so divided back in those 2020s, and I'm happy it's not like that anymore. Anything else you want to mention, Ari, before we cut out for this and head over to do a Peacemaker review?
No, I think that's good.
I'm going to mention if you're a Vineland fan and you're like, finally, we're getting an adaptation of this book. I can't wait to see how he directly adapts all these events. It's not going to happen. This is very loose, I will say, and it's inspiration from the book. There are certain characters and like some elements. It definitely feels like it's set in the reality where that book is also set, but it's not adapting that storyline at all. There's core characters and core themes and core connections and stuff like that that are similar, but don't go in here thinking you're finally going to get the adaptation you've been dreaming of. You're going to get the weird, acidic PTA version of that. And a much more like action-oriented version of that too. But yeah, I had a good time. Like I mentioned, I like to end these mentioning a couple of movies that this reminded me of. We talked about Mad World. I thought about that a lot throughout. There was also some like Doctor Strangelove in here with the characters, especially Sean Penn. Battle of Algiers gets a shout out in this movie. Keep your eyes open for that one. Certainly, that was an inspiration for PTA in this movie. So go back and check that one out if you want to see some of the old classics of these types of movies. Anything you want to shout out that you thought about watching this?
I definitely saw some Scorsese influence too.
Scorsese for sure. Yeah, we'll wrap it up there. We may come back with some spoiler thoughts. I know Michael is probably itching to talk about this one too, and I hope that the conversation keeps this movie alive, right? I want to talk about this movie a lot throughout the next few months because conversation is what makes this movie stick around, right? Something that's not going to do super well at the box office. If we keep talking about it and keep making it part of the conversation, maybe it'll stick around and do better and better as the weeks go along. So let us know in the comments if you saw this, what you thought of it. We really want to get your thoughts on it. Try not to spoil anything. There's a couple of twists in here, not like a lot, but there's a few things that you would want to know going in. So try not to spoil things for people in the comments, but let us know what you thought of this, what you hope PTA does next. Do you want to see him touch GTA? Do you want to see him go to something smaller, go back to something, maybe a little more on the indie side? Can't wait to see what he does next. And if you want to see what we do next, we're going to be reviewing Peacemaker in just a moment here. So check out our Peacemaker review. It's probably already out on the channel by the time you're watching this. Me and Michael will be doing an awards roundtable talk about One Battle After Another. And as usual, every Monday or so, you can find me and Ari talking the news. We've got a lot going on this week in the news. It seems like the news never stops. Every single day there's something breaking on the news here. So check us out there on the channel. Let us know what you thought and like us if you liked us. If you didn't like us, bye-bye.